Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we build the sidewalls for the loft, add the plywood sheathing, install the house wrap, build and install the soffit overhangs, or some people call them ladders. So we have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Due to the angle of the roof line, I felt it was easier to just nail down the bottom plate to the plywood subfloor and then add a 2x6 top plate to the underside of the roof rafters. I can then mark the layout of the studs on the bottom plate and use a level to mark a level line on the top plate. It's then a matter of measuring that distance, and that would be the long point of the cut. This roof is a 10-12 pitch, so I just set the saw at 40 degrees to make my cut. So here I am using the level to mark the plumb line on the top plate, and then I will measure the distance to know what length to cut each stud at. After installing the first couple of studs, I realized the math involved in calculating the length of the adjacent stud. So I continued to measure and cut one at a time and working my way to the center point. There is a window that will go in the center of this wall, so need to keep that in mind when laying it out. Here I am cutting and nailing the jack or trimmer stud in place, and this carries the load of the header that is above the window. There will be one on each side of the window to carry that load. We had this white tarp that measured 40 by 60 that I used to use in the winter in order to create an ice rink in the backyard for our kids. We had some rain in the forecast, and now that we had most of the rafters in place, we decided to install the tarp, and it would allow us to keep all of the materials dry and at the same time continue to work in the rain. We are unfolding the tarp and trying to determine which way it should be installed. Much easier to do that on the ground rather than struggle with it up on the roof. We then used Bob to lift it up to the loft and then up onto the scaffolding in order to get it at the top of the roof on the ridge beam. Our plan was to then just let it fall to either side of the roof. The tarp wasn't necessarily heavy, but it was certainly awkward and a little bit unwieldy. It wasn't easy to get a firm grip on it as it was a touch slippery. We slid it through one of the roof rafter bays and then got it up to the top of the ridge beam. From there, it was a matter of unfolding it and letting it down on either side. So here we are starting to install the plywood sheathing on the sidewall. It was a little windy that day, and you can see the tarp blowing all over the place. We quickly outgrew the ladder, and so we decided to take the time to set up the scaffolding, as we had to reach the peak of the ridge, which was easily close to 25 feet above the ground. We quickly realized we needed a way to stabilize and tie the scaffolding to the building, so I grabbed a ratchet strap and wrapped it around the 2x6 wall. With the scaffolding all set up, it was time to turn our attention back to the plywood sheathing.
but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. When we play our roles and ignore the problems. I like to be away in my patience. Stay up, I feel so outdated. How can we look the other way? Sun is out, but the sky is gray. What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow, I think I'll chew it. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. When we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. When we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew.
And just like that, the plywood sheathing was done on this first sidewall. It was now time to install the house wrap to protect the sheathing. It was now time to install the overhang or ladder extensions, which will support the soffit and fascia. We built these in one piece, so they were very long, heavy, and awkward. I attached some blocks to support the extensions, and the plan was to lift these out from the inside, sit on the support blocks, and then use some clamps to secure in place while we got it into the final position. The plan worked perfectly, and looking back at it now, it almost looks like we know what we are doing. Once we confirmed it was in the right location and was sitting flush with the other rafters, it was a matter of nailing it off to secure it. We worked our way down from the ridge beam, adjusting the height up or down to account for any bow in the wood. With the left side done, it was time to turn our attention to the right side and just repeat the steps we had done on the left. With the overhangs complete, we moved on to the other sidewall that will house the door into the loft. We built this wall the same way as the other wall by installing the bottom and top plate into position and then just cutting the 2x6 studs to fit. Here we are installing the jack studs to support the header above the door. With the wall built, it was now time to install the plywood sheathing. We loaded a bunch of plywood onto Bob's forks and then lifted them up to the loft. Not only will this be used for the side walls, but it will also be used for the roof, so we needed to get a lot of plywood into the loft. This is where I'm going to end this episode. Come back and check out the next one as we will be installing the roof sheathing. Please comment below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you get notified when we upload our next video. Thanks for watching.